mula sa DOJ kung saan ipinag-utos na nga ni Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre na imbestigahan ang issue tungkol sa dengue vaccine. Nandyan rin po sa nasabing briefing ang ilan sa mga opisyal ng Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption. Ang sinasabi po ng grupong yan ay meron silang ilang ebidensya sa umano'y masamang naging epekto nitong ang dengue vaccine.
Ayoko pa kunahin si Secretary. He's the boss here.
Sabi mo may press con ka dito?
Later, pero hindi ngayong araw nito. Papunta ako ng Prosecutors Convention, kaya nagmamadali ako sa Clark.
Mali muna kami siguro.
Bahala kayo kung pan, ha? Papalan muna ako.
Sige. Thank you, Secretary. Okay.
Baka may tanong pa kayo. Sige. Go, go, go. Ito.
Wag muna.
Kailangan, free willing tayo ngayon dito. Kasi para sa bayan to. Meron lumapit sa amin na gusto mag-witness. Isang doktor. At maaaring marami siyang alam tungkol dito sa project na ito. Kaya ayoko muna pangunahan dahil makikipag-meeting pa sa akin. Pero nakarating sa akin yung information na mukhang natatakot siya because of security ng buhay niya. Remember, this is almost malaki to, billion to. At lumalabas, kung titignan mo ang presyo sa India, kasi lumabas sa social media eh.
Napakamura daw.
Verify pa yan.
Of course.
Kasi ang laki ng diferensya eh. 1 million unit. Sa India daw, 1 million. I-verify pa yan, ha?
Ang inyo pong napapanood ay isang briefing na nangyari kanina sa, ongoing pa ngayon sa Justice Department. Pero kanina po ay nagsalita mismo si Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre at pinag-utos niya nga pong imbestigahan ang nangyaring pagbibigay ng Dengvaxia o dengue vaccine sa libo-libong mga estudyante. Ngayon po nagsasalita ang ilang opisyal ng Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption. Ang sinasabi po kanina ni Dante Jimenez ay meron daw lumapit sa kanila na isang doktor na pwede raw magtestigo tungkol dito sa issue ng pagbibigay nga ng Dengvaxia. Isa po yung government program sa dengue vaccination program. Pinatigil po yan noong nakaraang linggo at ihahatid po namin ang dagdag na detalye tungkol dyan sa nangyaring press conference ng Department of Justice. Muli pinaiimbisigahan na po ni Justice Secretary ang issue na yan. Samantala, hindi naman daw dapat maalarma ang mga magulang ng mga batang nakatanggap ng dengue vaccine na Dengvaxia. Ayon kay Health Secretary Francisco Duque, ligtas at may proteksyon mula sa mga malubhang sakit sa loob ng 2.5 taon ang mga batang pinabokonahan ng Dengvaxia. Maituturing aniya itong window of opportunity bago makitaan ng anumang sintomas ang batang nakatanggap ng bakuna. Lumabas kasi sa pag-aaral ng SANOFl, ang kumpanyang nag-manufacture ng Dengvaxia, na posibleng magkaroon ng severe disease ang mga batang hindi pa dating nagkaroon ng dengue at nabigyan ng bakuna. Bagamat sa ngayon, hindi pa malinaw ano ang sinasabing mga severe disease na ito.
We're awaiting SANOFl's definitive definition of severe disease. Because, you know, there are many classifications of the dengue disease. You may point to a 1997, to 2009, 2011 classification. So, magulo eh. There's no clarity. That's why we're waiting for them to tell us more definitively ano ba talaga ibig sabihin ng severe dengue disease. So, sa ngayon, wala pa silang pinadadala.
Noong Biyernes, pansamantalang tinigil ng DOH ang kanilang dengue vaccination program habang iniimbestigahan ang pangyayari. Simula nang pinatupad noong 2016, mahigit 700,000 ng mga bata mula 9 na taong gulang ang nabigyan ng Dengvaxia. 8 hanggang 10% rito o nasa 70,000 mga bata ang hindi pa nagkaroon ng dengue nang matanggap ang bakuna. Panagutin ang dapat managot. Yan ang giit ni Vice President Leni Robredo sa mga responsable sa pagbibigay ng Dengvaxia. Ayon kay Robredo, dapat masusing pag-aralan at agad na mabigyang kasagutan ang tanong ng publiko tungkol sa posibleng epekto ng Dengvaxia, pati na ang pwedeng gawin ng mga magulang ng mga batang nabigyan ng bakuna. Ayon naman sa Malacanang, nakikipag-ugnayan na ang Department of Health at Department of Education upang mamonitor ang mga batang nabigyan ng bakuna. Tiniyak din ng palasyo na mananagot ang mga responsable. Magsasagawa po ng press conference ang DOH at SANOFl Pasteur ngayong umaga tungkol sa Dengvaxia. Ihahatid po namin yan sa inyo live at sa ngayon po ay magsisimula na ang press con na yan. Pakinggan natin.
Thank everybody. Sabi nga po ni Christine is in such a short notice and would like to thank you for coming because really would like to ask for your support. Kung paano po natin ma-disseminate itong information that we will actually share with you so that in the interest of public health that this information will be disseminated correctly to the public para po ma-clarify natin yung mga concerns and questions evolving around the dengue vaccine and the dengue vaccination program. So, I will now share with you the press statement that we will release. Okay, so SANOFl Pasteur recently released a new supplementary exploratory analysis of the long-term follow-up of its dengue vaccine. This is part of the company's ongoing commitment to evaluate the long-term impact of the dengue vaccine and is also consistent with the recommendation put forward in the World Health Organization's position on the vaccine. These new findings demonstrate a different profile of the dengue vaccine for those with or without a previous dengue infection. In individuals who have been previously infected by dengue virus, there is a clear and sustained benefit of being vaccinated with the dengue vaccine up to 6 years following the first infection. In individuals following the first injection, correction. In individuals who have not been previously infected by dengue virus, there is an increased risk of hospitalization for dengue and severe dengue, predominantly grade 1 or 2 dengue hemorrhagic fever. Severe dengue can be categorized from milder to more severe forms of DHF1, 2, 3, and 4, according to WHO. DHF4 was not seen in those vaccinated. We have shared this new data in full transparency with the Philippine Food, Drug, and Administration and to the Department of Health. Furthermore, the severe dengue observed in vaccinated individuals was not clinically different from the reported in unvaccinated people in the studies. All study participants who got severe dengue, whether vaccinated or not, have fully recovered. So may I just repeat that statement? All study participants who got severe dengue, whether vaccinated or not, have fully recovered. Consequently, we are proposing an update to the current vaccine label to ensure that physicians can make appropriate vaccination decisions with their patients to enhance the impact of the vaccine in the Philippines, where majority have been infected by dengue by the time they reach adolescence. The company has also started to inform the new label proposal with private healthcare professionals to help them in the assessment of benefit risk of vaccination to their patients. Dengue is highly endemic in the Philippines, and since 2010, there has been a reported average of over 160,000 cases every year, mostly in children and in teenagers. Studies have shown that in individuals aged 9 to 14 years old, 9 out of 10 of them would have already been infected by the dengue virus. However, not all people who have been infected by the dengue virus are aware because around 75% of them do not have any symptoms. So this is actually the press statement that we have, and just to summarize it in 3 key points. One is new analysis of long-term dengue vaccine data from clinical studies found differences in vaccine performance in individuals with or without dengue infection prior to vaccination. Second, SANOFl is working with Philippines Food and Drug Administration to update product label to reflect the new information. And third, SANOFl has started to share this new data with all stakeholders, including private healthcare professionals, and is committed to keep on cooperating with the Philippines Department of Health, DOH, for its ongoing review of the public dengue vaccination program.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ching. Now, I would like to introduce again our head of Global Medical Affairs, Dr. Suping Nong, to give you the details of the new study.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. So I'm going to actually perhaps share a little bit more information that was already stated in the press release, because I know there's a lot of confusion. I know there's a lot of misunderstanding, and we really want to make sure that this information is clearly understood and that it can be communicated in the best way possible for the general public. So I apologize if some of the things might go over quite quickly, but we want to leave you enough time for Q&A so we can always come back if there's something that needs further clarification. So let me first of all start with dengue. It is actually known as a classical pyramid that you see here, that in fact of the 3.9 billion people around the world living in dengue endemic areas, this is half the world's population. Almost 390 million people are estimated to be infected per year. As Ms. Santos said as well, silent infections occur 3 out of 4 of these cases. So, in fact, of the symptomatic cases, you might only see 96 million around the world every year. And of that 96 million, approximately 500,000 people are estimated to have some form of severe disease. And then of that 500,000 people, 2.5% of people could succumb to the disease. Now, this is really important to note because this understanding about the fact that dengue infection, 3 out of 4 of dengue infections may actually have had no symptoms, means that, any of you in the room here today would not know necessarily if you've had a dengue infection because of this very, very fact. Now, in the Philippines, however, we know that dengue is really, truly a public health priority. These are just estimates of over 150,000 reported cases per year, and we know that these are often underestimated. You see some data there about the trends that actually over the last few years and decades, it has been steadily increasing. And you also see the trends on the right-hand side, which talk about the dengue infection rates by different age groups, that in fact, by the time people have reached adolescence, actually a significant number of cases have already occurred. And on the bottom left, you see that all 4 serotypes are circulating here in the Philippines, and it can vary from year to year. Also on the bottom right-hand side, you see that there's a lot of seasonality. So it tends to occur with the breeding seasons because, of course, that is when the mosquito breeding is going to be most prominent. We can come back again to those facts, but this actually shows you as well, this is a truly complex infection against which to target to develop a vaccine. So, coming back to this point, is it true if you don't remember having had dengue infection that it means you don't have a previous infection? So out of a possible 100 people infected by dengue, perhaps only 25 might have had symptoms. So now let me just turn to what this vaccine update that we've just announced is. So just as a reminder, SANOFl has been working for over 20 years to try to develop dengue vaccine against a truly important public health burden. This has involved numerous clinical studies in 15 countries, so 25 clinical studies in 15 countries involving over 40,000 volunteers, and over 28,000 children, adolescents, adults have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. The Philippines itself was involved in both phase 1, 2, and also phase 3 trials. And in fact, we specifically chose to have these trials in the most dengue endemic countries because that would be where the vaccine could demonstrate its biggest impact. all the studies, the efficacy trials, were also conducted under the governance of the US FDA. So US territories were also included in this trial. So what did the data show us? This is just a reminder of the data that was available at the time of the vaccine being licensed. So you see that in the age group 9 and above, Dengvaxia was shown to be safe and effective, preventing 65.6%, or in other words, 2/3 of any form of symptomatic dengue, 80.8%, in other words, 8 out of 10 of hospitalizations due to dengue, 93.2%, meaning more than 9 out of 10 of severe dengue cases in the 25 months from the first dose. Now we have continued, as per WHO guidance, as per our commitment, to continue to follow up all these participants up to 6 years following the first dose. And until today, if you look at the data in the population 9 and above, we continue to see significantly fewer hospitalizations and fewer cases of severe dengue in those who've been vaccinated versus those who have not, receiving the placebo. So this information up to the 3rd year of the trials was used to actually gain the registration for Dengvaxia. 19 licenses have been granted. It has been launched in 11 countries, and 2 public programs initiated, Brazil and the Philippines. This is the only licensed vaccine today that has demonstrated protective efficacy and safety for dengue endemic countries. The WHO and other decision-making bodies, public health decision-making bodies, have reviewed all the data and made their own assessments, and last year there was a publication of the WHO's recommendations. And to date, we estimate about 1 million vaccinees in the public programs. Having said that, we do acknowledge that there were questions asked of us as to whether or not the vaccine would have had a different performance in those who have had a dengue infection before or not. And if you go back to the original design of the clinical trials, these clinical trials were not originally designed to assess that question. These clinical trials, including the long-term follow-up, were designed to assess the question of long-term performance between the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, but not necessarily long-term performance between those who've been infected before versus not infected before. So to answer this question, we had to really try our best to find a method to answer the question. And what we did was we identified an assay, a new type of laboratory test that would allow us to go back into the data, that would allow us to then, in fact, estimate of those who had received the vaccine, which ones of them had previous infection, which ones didn't have previous infection. Similarly, for those who received placebo, which ones had infection before, which ones did not. This assay was only recently validated. It was developed in conjunction with the Pittsburgh University. And only when this assay was available could we then use it to retest all the samples that we had from the clinical trials. So the new data is truly new. It was a retrospective, so going back into our data, using a new assay in order to answer this specific question. So what did it show us? And I'm repeating something which is, of course, already stated in the press release. Really clear benefit in those who have had a previous dengue infection, out to 6 years, significant long-term protection against dengue, against hospitalization, and against severe illness due to dengue. However, in those who did not have a previous dengue infection, we noted in the longer term an increased risk of hospitalized and severe dengue in those who had been vaccinated compared to those who received the placebo. This was largely seen in the 3rd year of the follow-up, from the third year of the follow-up. Now, with this information, we now have a better way to assess how to better use this vaccine so that we can indeed maximize its impact, because we can then use the vaccine in a more appropriate way in order to ensure that those who really, really need it should be receiving it. So this is why we have gone out, we have gone to the national regulatory agencies, we have spoken to the departments of health, and we want to make this information known so that it actually helps all the decision makers, the clinicians, make even better choices. It doesn't mean that all the data we've had today is no longer valid, because if you go back to the analysis that we already had, even without knowing the previous infection status, as I said before, in the highly dengue endemic countries, the majority of the people have already had a dengue infection. So our data still shows that out to 6 years, those who have received vaccine continue to have lower cases of severe dengue and lower cases of hospitalization compared to the placebo group. Now, I want to clarify something which perhaps is a bit misunderstood. What do we mean by severe dengue? Now, from the very start of the clinical trials, we had developed a criteria for severe dengue that was looked at by our independent data monitoring committee. These were very strict criteria that we developed, which in fact are actually wider, broader than the current way that the WHO classification for severe dengue is. These on the right-hand side are all those criteria used to assess severe dengue, and we deliberately chose this wider set of criteria because we wanted to be very conservative and we wanted to really, really dive very deep to assess safety. On the other hand, if you took WHO's 2009 classification for severe dengue, to meet that criteria, you would need to have symptoms such as severe shock, severe bleeding, and severe and impact organ failure or organ impairment. In our classification of severe dengue, you will see a number of symptoms which today many clinicians would actually not classify as severe dengue, but might classify it as dengue with warning signs that it could lead to a more severe dengue. The other way of looking at severe dengue, a different set of classifications, many of the doctors here in the Philippines are very familiar with. This was a set of criteria designed in 1997, and it's still very familiar to doctors in Philippines. It's the 4 categories called dengue hemorrhagic fever 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you see these are just some examples of symptoms that are on this chart between 1, 2, 3, and 4, with 4 being the most profound and including potentially profound shock. In the DHF1 and the DHF2 categories, these are sometimes seen as more like bruising. There's a test that's done where they press on the arm and they see if there's actually bruising. They look at platelet counts, and then there may be some gum bleeding or bleeding from the nose. Now, what is also important to note that in all of the clinical trials, whether they were the placebo recipients or the vaccine recipients, all the participants who got severe dengue, according to, remember, our wider classification of severe dengue, they were all fully recovered. And what is really also important to note about severe dengue is that many factors may actually be driving some people to result in severe dengue and others not. In fact, we know that only 1 in 800 of dengue, whether it has symptoms or no symptoms, might actually result in a severe dengue. It's not known truly what are all the different reasons as to why some people might get it and why some people don't get it. But it has been noted that typically the second dengue infection is associated with higher rates. Not to say that all second infections result in a severe dengue, but just higher rates of severe dengue. So when we take that clinical trial data And we try to put it into numbers that people perhaps can grasp a little bit better. What this shows us is in the population who had a previous dengue infection before, over a 5-year period, what you could see from vaccinating 1,000 of these individuals is a reduction of 15 hospitalized dengue cases and 4 severe dengue cases. So this is in those who've had a previous dengue infection before, and remember, it's the majority of the people who live in dengue endemic areas. In the minority, which is the people who have had no dengue infection before vaccination, vaccination over the 5-year period might lead to an increase of 5 hospitalized dengue cases and an increase of 2 severe dengue cases. Another way to try to put these numbers into context is to see even one additional severe dengue case amongst those who've never seen a dengue infection before. You would need to actually vaccinate 5,000 people, where 9 out of 10 actually have seen the infection before and 1 out of 10 hasn't. But if you vaccinate 5,000 of these people and 9 out of 10 of them have seen the infection before, in fact, in the whole group, you've prevented 17 severe dengue cases. Okay? That means, for instance, preventing 18 cases in those who've had dengue infection before versus the 1 case in those who've not had dengue infection before. Vaccinating that 5,000 gives you a benefit of 17 prevented cases. I can come back to those numbers again if you want me to clarify later. So, let me give you the summary. So when we look at the benefit-risk profile from this new analysis, we see 2 profiles, right? Very clear and sustained benefit vaccinating those who previously had a dengue infection before, so-called seropositives, potentially preventing 15 dengue hospitalizations or 4 clinically severe dengue episodes per 1,000 vaccinees. In the longer term, an increased risk of hospitalized and severe dengue in the vaccinated people without a prior history of dengue infection before they had vaccine. Potentially adding 5 dengue additional hospitalizations or 2 clinically severe dengue episodes per 1,000 of such vaccinees. With the majority, especially here in the Philippines, being those above and the minority being those in that category below, which means at the population level, when you translate these data, the overall benefit of vaccination in a highly endemic setting, such as we have here. In fact, here is an example where above 70% seroprevalence in those from 9 years of age, you've seen the other data that actually suggests 9 out of 10, at least 9 out of 10 of people, by the time they're adolescents in the Philippines, have already had a dengue infection. So this is truly still in line with the previous WHO recommendations on dengue vaccination introduction. So I think we can open to questions now.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Su. The floor is now open for questions. So please, we have mics on the floor. For those who would want to ask questions, please state your name and the organization which you represent. So yes, sir.
Good morning, I'm Rahul Dansel, the Straits Times, Singapore. You said you are going to change the product labeling of Dengvaxia. Does it mean that you're going to recall products already being sold at pharmaceutical retail chains? How are you going to go about that change?
So far, with all the agencies that we've spoken with, no one has asked for a product recall. They have agreed with our proposal that we want to inform doctors through both a direct communication by letter, through medical education activities, in order that they are all readily informed of the new information. And of course, depending on each of the different ministries of health in the different countries, they can also issue their own circulars and memos to the doctors.
Okay, next question, please.
Hi, Sophia Cruz from Rappler po. When you were talking about the new findings, and you said that it went both ways, right? So for those who had prior infections, it was more effective because it increased the period to 6 terms. But for those without infections, it posed a higher risk for them contracting severe dengue. So are you saying that for those who had no prior infection, the vaccine was not effective?
So with this profile, what we would say is that today, if you know somebody who has no previous infection, we would not recommend vaccination. What is important to note, however, is that it depends on which country you might be in. It's sometimes not so easy to really identify, as I said before, who has had a previous infection, because you saw 3 out of 4 cases can have no symptoms. So given that, you have to look at local data, you have to look at local epidemiology, the burden of the disease in the country, to make an assessment of the what's called the seroprevalence. So what proportion of people living in a given country have had previous dengue? What we know from the data from the Philippines is that it's 9 out of 10, at least, who have had a dengue infection by the time they reach adolescence.
Dr. Santa Ana, would you like to add to the statement of Dr. Su?
I think nasabi na ni Dr. Su, dito sa Pilipinas, 9 hanggang out of 10 are already exposed. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin nito na ito yung mga na-hospital na ng dengue. Sabi nga kanina, 3/4 of the cases are asymptomatic. So dito sa room na to, masasabi natin na around 3/4 we already had exposure to dengue, whether alam natin or hindi.
Okay. The lady in red, please, ma'am.
Lizel Once of DZRH po. Was Philippines a part of your clinical trial?
Yes, I think I showed the slide before. The Philippines was involved in clinical trials leading from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And as I also highlighted before, the phase 3 trials as well were all governed under the US FDA's governance for clinical trials.
Okay, if that was the case, then why was the Philippine government charged worth 3.5 billion for the dengue vaccine?
Sorry, may I ask ma'am to please repeat the question?
Yes, if we are part of the clinical trial, why did the Philippine government pay for it for 3.5 billion pesos?
Okay. Actually, yung clinical trials are of course different from the commercial product. Just like any other study that is being done, whether here or in other country, yung study is a different process, and then pag na-license siya, magkaiba rin siya. So, hindi siya magka-associate.
Okay. Another question, last na po. If ever there would be reports about children who had side effects because of dengue vaccine, are you willing to pay for it?
Well, sa ngayon, just like we have mentioned, nang nagko-collaborate kami with the FDA, with the DOH, on the ongoing review. And in fact, we don't want to preempt that. Pero syempre, we are really a supporter and collaborator of the agency. No? So kung ano magiging action plan na nire-review ngayon ng DOH, ay nandun kami present. We will always support.
Thank you.
Okay, Cory.
Can I just add one point, about clinical trials and how much the vaccine research community in the Philippines has really contributed, not just for dengue vaccines, but if you take rota vaccine, you take HPV vaccine, pneumococcal vaccine, influenza vaccine, rabies vaccines. The Philippines have been involved with clinical trials to develop all of these vaccines. So it should not just be looked at from a dengue vaccine standpoint.
Okay, Dr. Rubay?
Just to address the other point, I think it's important for everyone to know that, like DOH, safety is the top priority of this company as well. Our focus as of today is to communicate these results as proactively and as transparently as we can to FDA, MOH, to our Department of Health, and to all the doctors. But we are, rest assured, we are in collaboration with the Department of Health to make sure that the mechanisms are in place. And we will decide how to move forward with the Department of Health.
Good morning. To Ms. Ching Santos. Ma'am, kapag halimbawa nagdesisyon ang DOH na bawiin yung naibayad na nila, since we know na fully paid na rin po ang bansa natin. So pag nagdesisyon po sila na bawiin yung naibayad na, okay lang ba sa atin? Ano po yung gagawin nating step?
Well, una, wala pa tayo dyan, no? At sana hindi naman umabot sa ganun. Because just to reiterate the fact that the vaccine actually has its value, no? Sinabi nga sa atin ni Dr. Su kanina that ang Philippines is 90% of us are seropositive already, and the vaccine actually works best for seropositive. So, let's take it aside. Ngayon, yung sa DOH, as I've mentioned, ayokong mag-preempt ng kung ano man yung magiging decision ng DOH. Pero sinabi nga namin, safety is our first concern. Nanay din ako, syempre, di ba? So, kung ano man ang kalalabasan ng decision that the DOH will agree with, of course, our company will actually discuss with them and arrive at a win-win situation for the two of us.
For Dr. Santa Ana, para lang po ipaliwanag sa ating mga magulang, in layman's term po, Doc, ano po ba yung aasahan nila, tulad ng nabanggit kanina, na i-present kanina, yung severe na dengue. Marami po kasing mga magulang ang hindi masyadong maintindihan kung ano ba yung tinatawag nating severe. Pwede niyo po bang i-explain sa amin, Doc?
Alam mo, maraming salamat sa tanong na yan. Kasi even sa pamilya ko, pag uwi ko dito sa Pilipinas ng isang linggo, ang unang mga tanong sa akin, bakit nakaka-severe ang dengue? Okay, at ito rin yung mga agam-agam na naririnig namin sa mga magulang. Of course, we feel for the parents dahil lahat tayo halos dito ay magulang. Okay? Pero as what Dr. Su said, let us put it in the proper context. Ano ba itong severe? Okay? So, ang iniisip kasi natin na kapag severe, ito na yung dengue shock na mamamatay. Hindi. As ipinakikita dun sa analysis na pinresent ni Dr. Su, ang severe could only be yung lagnat ng 2 araw. At kapag may suspect na case ng dengue, yung platelet count pwedeng bumaba. Pwede rin kapag nabunggo ka, magkakahematoma ka. Okay? Or magkakapasa ka, at pwede rin parang pagka nainitan ka, magbabalingoy-ngoy ka. So, iyon, dun sa pag-aaral na yon, kinlasify na yon as severe dengue. Okay? So, nais kong iparating sa mga magulang na sana ay maintindihan nila kung ano yung tamang informasyon. At ito yung isa sa mga rason kung bakit nagdaos tayo ng media roundtable para maliwanagan. At paano maliliwanagan yung mga magulang? Sa tulong ninyo, sa tulong ng media, we are asking and counting on you to give the correct information to the parents. Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, ang mga magulang natatakot. Hindi lang sa dengue vaccination at posible sa lahat ng klaseng pagbabakuna natatakot sila. And this will be very bad. Because alam natin na ang bakuna ay isa sa mga public health tool, na magliligtas sa mga tao sa mga vaccine-preventable diseases.
So yung tulad po ng sabi niyo, like yung dengue shock, ganyan, bleeding, hindi po ito kasama doon sa sinasabi natin na severe, Doc?
Doon sa pag-aaral na pinakita ni Dr. Su, yung severe dengue, walang kaso ng dengue shock syndrome, walang kaso na namatay, at lahat ng kaso ng pinangalanan na severe dengue ay nag-resolve spontaneously. At ngayon, yung gravity ng ito na tawag na severe dengue ay hindi mas malala dun sa mga seronegative kumpara dun sa seropositive. Pare-pareho sila.
Last question po for me. Paulit-ulit po na tinatanong, kung kung meron daw ho ba talagang namatay dahil sa dengue vaccine. So ano ho ba ang gusto nating sabihin tungkol dito? Thank you.
Actually, lahat ng mga cases no, ng adverse events or kahit anong reports are reported either to the FDA or to the DOH. And of course, this is best to be answered by the DOH no, for the public program. But as far as we know, as far as we are made aware, there are no reported deaths that are related to dengue vaccination. And this is assessed by an independent expert group, which is convened by the DOH, which is called the National Adverse Event Following Immunization Committee. And of course, we rest assured monitoring is continuing and we are working with the DOH in collaboration to make sure that this is maintained.
Ma'am, sorry. Sir, sorry. Super last. Ano po ang reaction po ng Sanofi Pasteur dahil pinaimbestigahan na po itong dengue vaccine sa DOJ?
Well, in line with that, well, of course, kami naman is a very responsible company. Transparent kami. In fact, the reason why we are actually releasing all these statements no, ng aming mga studies. At of course, if you will be invited, kung ano man ang data that we have presented to the stakeholders, to FDA, to DOH, ayan din ang ipe-present namin sa anumang ahensya ang magtatawag sa amin para magbigay ng information. Of course, we will cooperate.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time at para makapagtanong din ang lahat ng ating mga kasamahan sa media, we will request you to please limit your questions to 2. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sandra from GMA.
Ang inyo pong napanood ay ang press conference ng Sanofi Pasteur. Sila po yung gumawa ng dengue vaccine na Dengvaxia. Ang nangyari po kanina, kinumpirma po ng Sanofi na may epekto, itong posibleng masamang epekto, itong Dengvaxia doon sa mga nabakunahang bata na hindi pa po nagkakaroon noon ng dengue. Ang sabi po nila, posibleng ang epekto niyan, increased risk of hospitalization for dengue and severe dengue. Posible raw yan mangyari 3 taon pagkatapos mabakunahan yung mga batang hindi pa nagkaroon ng dengue. Pag sinasabi raw severe dengue, ibig sabihin nagkakaroon ng lagnat ng 2 araw, bumababa ang platelet count, nagkakaroon ng hematoma o pasa at nababaligoy-goy o yung nosebleed. Pero giniit rin ng Sanofi na yung mga nagkakaroon ng ganitong kaso ng severe dengue, wala naman daw namamatay at lahat daw ay gumagaling kahit na nabakunahan o hindi ng Dengvaxia. Giniit rin ng Sanofi, yung gumagawa nga po ng Dengvaxia, na sa panig nila, wala raw naiulat sa kanila na namatay dahil dito sa dengue vaccination at kung may mga ganyang ulat man daw, dumidiretso daw yan sa DOH at sa Food and Drug Administration o FDA. Pero sinabi rin naman ng Sanofi, yung mga batang nabakunahan daw ng Dengvaxia na dati nang nagkaroon ng dengue, epektibo daw ito para hindi na sila ulit magkaroon ng dengue sa loob ng 6 na taon. Muli, yan po ang naging press conference ng Sanofi. Bago po yan ay nakita rin natin ang Department of Justice na nag-press con. Sabi po ni Secretary Aguirre, iniutos niya na imbestigahan na ng NBI itong 3